So if you're interested, I'll put that link to the video of the woman eating her lunch and getting it digested on my website later today. You all have this picture. I had to crop it a little bit so that it would fit nicely on one page. So you'll notice I kind of cut off the top and just a little bit on the bottom so that I could fit it all on one page. But what I'd like to do is make sure that you know what all of the pieces are called. So it's written here, but it's a little faint, and I'd like to talk about each one of them just a little bit. So we'll go through the list that you have and make sure that you know what each number is. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is that the first few numbers are cut off. That's because they're the things that are sort of sticking off at the top. The first four numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, are all salivary glands. Number 1 is the general word salivary glands, and 2, 3, and 4 are the different types. I'm not going to ask you to specify which type of salivary gland. So that you know, that's why the first four numbers are mysteriously absent. On your picture, the salivary glands are all of these yellow colored structures. And your salivary glands, like their name suggests, produce saliva. In case you were interested, they do have names. This one back here is called the parotid. Then there's two more over here. One of them is underneath your tongue, sublingual, and one of them is kind of underneath your jaw, and it's called submandibular. And so their names are suggesting their location. Sub means underneath, and lingual means your tongue. So you have salivary glands under your tongue, kind of at the back of your jaw, and then sort of in the roof of your mouth. That's just for interest's sake. I won't ask you to specify one salivary gland versus the other, just so you know that's what they are. Now, number 5 on your sheet is the oral cavity. If you want to use a more everyday man's word, it is your mouth. And in your oral cavity, you will find a couple of things that we will talk about. You will find your pharynx. That's number 6 on your diagram. And you will find your tongue. Now, it was actually fairly hard for me to find a picture that had teeth in it, but I figured that most of you would be aware that your teeth are in your mouth, and that I didn't need a picture to explain that to you. So that you know, teeth are in your oral cavity or are in your mouth. They're not actually labeled on this picture, but that's where they are. Now, does anyone want to ask any questions about what something is on the picture so far? So does anybody know what your pharynx is? It's a fun new word. Your pharynx, it's kind of a hard thing to explain because it's not actually a thing, it's more like an opening. So your pharynx is the way that food gets from your mouth to your esophagus. It's also the way air gets from your mouth to your lungs. And so we'll talk about the pharynx a number of times because it has dual purpose. Now, number 8, which is pointing down here, is your esophagus. I was watching some videos this morning trying to pick the ones that I wanted to show you, and every now and again you run into a video where someone is speaking with an accent, and I watched this one video and the woman kept saying esophagus, 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 and I kept laughing. I thought it was funny. And then I was like, hey, I do that for fun sometimes. I say words wrong just because. So this is your esophagus, or if you'd like to say it properly, esophagus. Now that's everything that's sort of at the top part near your head. Once we go down, we start running into organs that you're probably less familiar with because you can't see them, or they're not something that's really close to what you can see. For example, a lot of people know what their esophagus is and where it is because it's attached to your mouth. But once we get into all of these internal organs, they become a little less familiar. Perhaps you wouldn't be able to identify them. So that you know, when we do at least one of our dissections, you will be able to see the entire set of internal organs. And this really is very similar to what it looks like, especially the positioning and the shape. Obviously, the color is unrealistic. People's intestines are not green. They're colored so that you can see the difference between them here. So on your list, number 9 is your pancreas. Now, the pancreas is this bright yellow colored structure, and you can't see all of it if you're looking from the front. Your stomach is kind of in front of it. So when we do our dissection a bit later on, if you'd like to look at the pancreas, you actually have to lift the stomach out of the way. You often have to lift some of the intestines out of the way as well because it's in behind those structures. Number 10 on your list is your stomach. Now your stomach, most people think of as being a sack, a bag. It holds stuff. But like you saw in that video clip we watched, things are moving while you're in your stomach, and it's because your stomach is made of a whole bunch of muscles. Number 11 on your list is the pancreatic duct. And we're going to see the word duct. Now it's pointing to, it's sort of a blue colored line running right down the center of the pancreas. That's the pancreatic duct. A duct is basically a tube that's going to transport something for me. Usually a duct will carry enzymes of some sort. It's different than a blood vessel. A blood vessel carries blood. A duct carries some other kind of fluid that your body is producing. Now if we go over to the other side, number 12 is your liver. Now your liver, I always think, looks, if you look at it sideways, like Darth Vader's stormtrooper type hat. And when you look at the gallbladder, there's even kind of an eye on it. But your liver is quite big, and this picture is showing a cross section of the liver. So if I were to look at someone's internal organs, it's unlikely that I would be able to see any of the other small structures that are on the face of the liver. The liver actually has a bunch of lobes. It's quite a large organ. And so normally the gallbladder, which is number 13, you wouldn't actually be able to see it unless you moved some of the liver tissue out of the way. Yes? Yes, on a test, we would show, on a test I would always show the liver so that you could see the gallbladder, otherwise it would be invisible. Now, you'll see that the gallbladder and the liver have a blue tube attached to them. So I'm going to skip down to number 15. This is the common bile duct. So just like the duct that came from the pancreas, this is carrying fluids, enzymes, digestive things that your body is producing. It is not a blood vessel. Now that common bile duct we'll see is attached to your liver and to your gallbladder. Now where are all these ducts going? They're going to number 14, the duodenum or the duodenum, or however you want to say this word. It's the first section of your small intestine. So you'll see that the line is pointing right here for number 14. It's right at the end of your stomach. It's the very first bit of your small intestine. It's actually longer than just that tiny little chunk. It's the first few centimeters of your small intestine. But your intestines are both divided into 3 sections. On this particular diagram, over here where number 20 is, we see the ileum. And then just due to the way the picture is oriented, we don't see the other section of the small intestine specifically, and that's because they're wrapped over top of each other. So just so that you know, 14 and 20 are both part of your small intestine, which is that orange section. And when we get to talking about the small intestine specifically, I'll show you what it looks like if we were to stretch it out so that you have a better perspective of where each part is. Now over on the side, number 16 is your colon. We could also refer to your colon as your large intestine. So you have the small intestine and the large intestine. Now number 16 is referring to the whole entire thing, but there are 3 sections that make it up. So 17, 18, and 19, which are the next 3 points, are all part of your large intestine or part of your colon. So number 17, which is pointing to this middle part here, is your transverse colon. That makes sense. It's going across the width of the abdominal cavity. Number 18, which is pointing right about here, is your ascending colon. And it's called ascending because food goes up. So when we trace the path of food, food will come in on this side of your colon, travel upwards, go across, and then finally go over to this side of your colon, 19, which is the descending colon. Now there are a couple of other points that we'll make. Piece number 21, which is right here, is called the cecum. It's the very first initial pouch of your large intestine. And we'll see that this is where your appendix is. On my picture, it's like a tiny little dangler. It looks like a single little grape is hanging off the bottom of it. But your appendix is actually a very small, tiny little organ that's attached right there. So we'll talk about your appendix a bit later on. It doesn't actually have a digestive function, so it's not one that we're going to focus on in a lot of detail. But so you know, that's where it is. And those are all of the pieces that are numbered on your diagram.